On Wednesday, a diplomatic official from the U.S. Embassy in Benghazi is scheduled to tell Congress that more people could have been saved during the September 11th attack of last year. According to Fox News, Gregory Hicks has said fighter jets could have come to the rescue before Libyans launched a mortar attack. This contradicts Pentagon officials who say there was not enough time to deploy. Whether or not this testimony will just be a matter of opinion, a new documentary explains the risk people take when they come forward like this. The movie's called War on Whistleblowers, and it includes the stories of Thomas Tam and Thomas Drake, each of the men charged with espionage for exposing cases of warrantless wiretapping, as well as Franz Gale, who faced harassment after revealing that the Marine Corps kept buying Humvees instead of vehicles that could handle an IED explosion, as well as Michael DeCourt, who gave up a future in the defense industry when he said the U.S. Coast Guard installed radios that weren't waterproof. Now, these men all demonstrate a rise of reprisals against the people who expose malfeasance, as the film talks about here.
Secrecy is always the linchpin of abuses of power. If you can't exercise your power in the dark, people have insufficient power to hold you accountable.
Unfortunately, right now, we've seen a big crackdown on whistleblowers.
Whistleblowers are under attack in ways they've never been before in history.
Joining me now is the film's producer and director, a man who's become one of America's most important filmmakers, Robert Greenwald. Robert, welcome back to Viewpoint.
Thank you. It's good to be with you again.
It's a pleasure to see you. Now, I know the espionage charges have been dropped against Mr. Tam and Mr. Drake, but are they still facing other problems?
Well, whistleblowers do face a series of problems. They're illegal, they're financial, there's family disruption, and there's the fact that their very honor and integrity has tragically been attacked when what they're doing is almost a classic case definition of being a patriot, standing up, and calling out something not because they have anything at all to gain, but because their values demand that they speak up.
All too often, whistleblowers are people who are punished for putting morality above loyalty. And your film says that President Obama is coming down much harder on whistleblowers than President Bush ever did. Why do you think that is, Robert?
Well, the film talks to a series of whistleblowers. It also talks to investigative reporters, and Dana Priest and Jane Mayer and Bill Keller and Mike Isikoff. They all make the case that the Obama administration, like other administrations, Republican or Democrat, this is clearly an issue beyond partisan politics, unfortunately, is impacted by the military-industrial complex or the national security state. That has an immense power and hold over who's ever in the presidency, whoever the elected officials are.
So essentially the president is powerless next to the military-industrial complex.
Well, I don't know if he's powerless, but what we see over and over again, we see it in spending, we've seen it in the wars, we're seeing it with drones, we're seeing it with whistleblowers, that an entrenched bureaucracy that's a combination of driven by profit and driven by ideology has an enormous power. You know, the size of the national security state is so immense. Dana Priest and Bill Arkin have done this wonderful reporting, and there's one stat in the film that just jumps out at you. The National Security Agency every day monitors 1.7 billion, B as in billion, emails. And that just begins to give you a sense of how big they are, how dispersed their power is, and what kind of an impact they have, not just on the whistleblowers, but on each and every one of us in the way we live our lives.
Is it becoming harder to get whistleblowers to come forward?
Well, as the film shows and as the journalists talk about over and over again, it's become much harder. It's really a toxic environment, and part of the reason that the administration and the lawyers have attacked these whistleblowers is, yes, to get them, but almost more importantly, to try to silence others from speaking up, to send a message so that the next time they have a scoop or the next time they see something or the next time they're confronted with a real kind of moral challenge to their integrity, there's a tendency to go silent because of all the pressures, because of all the attacks, because of the financial cost, because of what it does to their families.
So why do you think, despite all these consequences, some people choose to come forward anyway?
Well, it's really interesting. You know, I was deeply inspired by many of these whistleblowers, by Dan Ellsberg, who we talked to in the film, because they feel they absolutely fundamentally must speak up, that they could not look at themselves in the mirror, that there's a line you draw as a human being, as a citizen, as a patriot, and they refused to cross that line. And when they saw others crossing it, breaking the law, stealing, literally costing lives of soldiers, they spoke up. And that's heroism, and we really should be giving these men parades down the main street of our cities.
Your film, Robert, talks a lot about misspending public funds, like with the Coast Guard radios and the Humvees. Did you learn anything new about military contractors from all this?
Well, we did a film years ago about Iraq for Sale, which was one of the early ones pointing out about the impact of military contractors. What we see is there's a toxic mixture, and it's a mixture driven by profit and driven by an ideology that believes everything should be secret and any problem can be solved by either invading, occupying, or droning. So you put that for-profit motive together in a mixture with this ideology, and you've got a very dangerous and powerful kind of way of being in the world. And that's why it's important that all of us do what we can to fight back. And the film, by the way, is available for free at our War on Whistleblowers website, because one of our funders said, we need people to see this all over the country. We need screenings. We need house parties. People need to send it to their elected officials.
Indeed. And from what we know about Gregory Hicks' upcoming testimony on Benghazi, it does sound like it's more of a difference of opinion than exposure of any kind of illegality. He thinks a fighter jet could have gotten there on time. The Pentagon says no way. In this case, Robert, if it's really just his opinion, is that on par with any of the other cases you examined?
Well, having an opinion is for sure not being a whistleblower. For sure, being a whistleblower is fundamentally having facts, statistics, hard information, and then at great risk to your career and your family, saying, I will not be silent.
The film is War on Whistleblowers, Free Press in the National Security State. You can learn about screenings or get a free DVD at waronwhistleblowers.com. Filmmaker Robert Greenwald, thank you for all the great films you've given us, and thank you for your time tonight on Viewpoint.
Thank you.
What a pleasure.